the cradle of our faith, the native land of our Lord, and the mother of salvation, is now forcibly held by a people without God. For many years now, the wicked race of Saracens, followers of unclean practices, have oppressed with tyrannical violence the holy places where the feet of our Lord rested.
In response to Alexius I, Byzantine emperor's plea to keep the Turks at bay, Pope Urban II organized a crusade of Western European warriors to help reclaim their holy lands from the Muslims. The army that consisted of almost 10,000 soldiers began a 3-year-long journey to reclaim Jerusalem from the Muslims. There were actually various different motivations behind the joining Crusader army, such as possible riches in the Holy Land and property and forgiveness of sins.
After 3 years, this, the First Crusade, reached the walls of Jerusalem. Once inside, no one was spared. An estimated 30,000 citizens were slaughtered by the Crusaders. Muslims, Jews, even fellow Christians.
Crusaders breached the gates of Jerusalem and take the city from the Muslims. In the process, they massacred various Muslims and Jews living in the city, believing them to be pagans against God. The Crusaders believed that God's hand assisted in this victory. The main orchestrator, Pope Urban, died before learning of the success of the First Crusade. For the first time in 400 years, Christians had control of their holy city, although Jerusalem was also so sacred to the Muslims since Muhammad was said to have ascended to heaven there, and they used to face the city in prayer. The opposing forces battled at Hattin on the hills. The Crusaders had suffered at disadvantage due to lack of water supply. The army had lost its cohesion, which would get them destroyed. They fought through exhaustion and were not successful. The Muslim forces repelled charge after charge. On the other hand, the Saracens had imprisoned King Guy, king of Jerusalem, and other nobles. The Muslim forces had surrounded the holy city, and Saladin organized his army in such a way that fooled the Christians. The men had left the city walls without guard. Saladin's tactic had brought victory.
The reason he is hero worshipped in the Arab world is that he was the one who took back Jerusalem, made it an open city once again for believers of the book, and transformed the fortunes of that world.
The shocking news of the Crusaders' defeat at Hattin in 1187, and especially the loss of Jerusalem, reverberated throughout the West. Almost immediately, Pope Gregory VIII made an emotional appeal for a third crusade. Richard feared his depleted force of 12,000 men couldn't hope to take the Holy City, and defend it against Saladin's vast army, drawn from across the Muslim world. He had failed in the primary mission of the Third Crusade.
The Muslim leader had gained respect for Richard I, and they had made a truce, and it was agreed that the Christians would keep a coastline towns, and Jerusalem would remain in the Muslims' hands.
As a concession, Christian pilgrims would be allowed to enter Jerusalem to worship at the Holy Sepulchre.
The ordeal of the various crusades was terrible for Muslims due to the various innocent lives taken and property lost. Fortunately, the Muslims gained military experience and weapons, as well as various merchants gaining more trade with Europe. Before the Crusades, their trade was beginning to prosper, but after the Crusades, trade increased and the Muslims gained many more riches, assisting in forming a new Muslim dynasty.